The more I research about climate change, the more I realize it's not just that the common knowledge about climate change is a little bit wrong, it's usually that the truth is the opposite of what we're told. Take polar bears. We're told that they're a symbol of climate change and they're dying off. In fact, their populations are at record levels. Take coral reefs. We're told they're going through these mass bleaching events and they're dying off because of warm weather. Actually, their levels are at 36-year highs. How about this? Heat is so dangerous, right? More people than ever are dying. In fact, 9 times more people die from cold every year than from heat. So even though we've seen a slight increase of deaths from heat, which is obviously a tragedy, we're at a net positive gain. With the world getting warmer, less people overall are dying. Extreme weather getting worse. Actually, it's been completely stable since the year 2000, with droughts actually decreasing, with hurricanes staying steady, with tornadoes going down as well. How about climate change is dangerous? Weird, because warm periods historically have always coincided with human flourishing, and we've seen that ourselves over the past 150 years with 1.3 degrees of Celsius warming. We've also seen the most abundance and proliferation of wealth that's ever happened in the history of human race, and that's coincided with 1.3 degrees of warming. So what's the issue? So you might say, what's the big deal? Can't we also transition to renewables? And the problem is that solar and wind are awful forms of technology. They are super expensive. We've invested trillions of dollars in them, and it's really only led to an increase in energy costs, especially in places like Europe, Germany, the UK. You're seeing hundreds and thousands of manufacturing jobs leave because it's so exorbitantly expensive to do work there. What does that translate into? Less jobs, less wealth. And then you have a degrowth society where people are so depressed, the morale is low, and their hope for the future is in the basement. And then they turn to ideologies like socialism and they turn on capitalism, when really these green policies are the things that push these industries out, not failed capitalism. And also the other problem is we're moving away from reliable energy in the form of oil and natural gas and coal and picking up these very unreliable forms of energy in the form of solar and wind, which cost more, take up more space, and they require you to increase the capacity of our energy grid because they're so unreliable that we have to have like twice as much as normal to cover for when the wind is not blowing and when the sun is not shining. And finally, in the West, we are so privileged. We were able to develop with gas and with oil, and we still use it as 75 to 80% of our grid and our energy sources. But when it comes to places like Africa and Asia and India, we scold them and don't invest in their countries if they're trying to build natural gas plants. So we're actually keeping people in poverty because of our climate policies. So across the board, we're safer than ever. We're more flourishing than ever during a warm period. And now we're hurting other people from using a reliable form of fossil fuels that we were allowed to develop with. I don't see any upside of climate propaganda. I think it's such a net negative for our society.